folks, I'm in the coop today. It's raining, the wind is blowing, and it's really quite cool out. So, instead of standing in the woodshed, I thought I'd stand in the chicken coop. So, you know, I went to visit my mom this morning, and she was sound asleep. So I sat with her for a little bit and sang "You Are My Sunshine," but she was zonked right out. So I visited with a few of the other residents and then headed back home. So that got me thinking. I know I've touched on this before, but you know, when it comes right down to it in the end, we've got to do for ourselves, right? It may feel quite selfish when we get to that point. We may feel guilty. We probably will, right? But until then, folks, we do have a responsibility as humans to do what we can for those who can't take care of themselves, right? Now I'm talking about those in nursing homes. They wouldn't be there if they could take care of themselves. Those in group homes. A rooster after a chicken, another rooster not liking it, folks. So those in group homes, residential homes, they'd be living on their own if they could, right? They need assistance in a lot of areas. The elderly, those in hospitals. It's going to be a sad day when we can't take care of them any longer. It's going to tug on the heart. Just the guilt alone will probably do some folks in. The guilt, right? Guilt. Until then, we have a responsibility to take care of those who cannot help themselves. And most of us do that, right? But when that day comes when you've got to survive, I hope that day never comes where we no longer can take care of those who cannot take care of themselves. That haunts me a little bit, because I've been in the helping field for many years. You know, every day I'm thankful that I was born so I could take care of myself. Some folks don't ever get a chance to have that luxury in their lifetime. Luck of the draw. That could have been me, that could have been you, right? And you would want someone to care enough to look after your well-being, right? It's too early to go heartless, folks. It's too early. It's too young in the game. We shouldn't be there already. And for most people, we're not there, right? So that's what I've got to say about that. Now, I know I keep talking about food. Food and skills, food and skills. I've talked about that a lot, right? Well, they're both equally as important to me. Right now, a lot of the stores have food, right? You can't be choosy. And the prices are going up. That dollar bill doesn't stretch as far as it did a little while ago. So it's important to catch those deals. It's important to buy those lesser name brands, right? Because when it comes down to it, food on the shelf is food on the shelf, folks. And if you're hungry, you'll eat it. Now, if you had 1,000 pounds of beans on the shelf, you might get a little tired of beans. Even though there's quite a few ways to eat beans, right? Beans are very good for you. And comparatively, they're pretty inexpensive, right? But you gotta have more than beans just to keep, if nothing else, the morale up, right? I got a hen laying an egg. So it's important to have a variety when at all possible. But if you can't get a variety, you need to buy whatever you can, folks. You need to buy it. You need to stock it up on the shelf. You need to store it correctly, right? If you're able to grow a garden, there was never a time to grow a garden as it would be this summer. Grow up whenever possible. Anything that can grow on a trellis, grow up. It'll save you room, right? Vining squash grows pretty good up on a trellis. Some plants you'll have to train on a trellis, right? That just takes a little bit of time. That shouldn't set you back any. And skills. Foraging skills. Very important because that's free food, right? That's free food. Now a little bit later, I am going to do a fireside chat tonight, folks. And I'm going to talk about a book that I highly recommend. And I've recommended it for years. And right up until the last day that I taught foraging classes, I used this book. And it's pretty inexpensive, but it's pretty detailed too. So we're going to be going over that. Quite affordable, folks. Especially for all the information in it. And last I knew, it was available on Amazon. Alright? So skills. Gardening, if you possibly can. Stocking up on food, catch those deals. Try to get a variety. But if it comes right down to only having a small variety of food, well, at least it's a small variety and you still have it whether you get tired of eating it or not, right? It's still food. That's where foraging comes in handy during its season. You know, like a big one here is fiddleheading, dandelions. Every part of the dandelion is edible, folks. Right down to the root. You can make tea or coffee, which I do quite a lot. No caffeine in it, though. You got to remember, if you're going to grow a garden and you want a nutritious garden, the general rule of thumb is the darker the leaf, dark green veggies, right? Dark green leaves are generally the most nutritious, right? More bang for your buck, or more bang for the pick, right? Now, I'm not a big pea-loving fan, but peas will go a long ways, folks, if you can grow them, right? You can dry them. They dry very quickly, easily. You can always rehydrate them, right? And then use them. Save some for seed for the next year. Now, folks, I'm a big heirloom girl. I get some hybrid only because I do. But I try to grow mostly heirloom. And I do collect the seeds. And there's a way that I do that that's pretty efficient, quick, clean. And saving seeds, folks, is pretty important, especially now, right? Now, somebody made a comment that go into your store and get a vegetable and save the seeds. You can do that. You might not get exactly the same fruit or vegetable, but that can be done, right? So when it comes down to it, again, food is food, folks. Food is food. And it's going to be important that we know how to grow it. We know how to harvest it. We know how to store it. We know how to save the seeds. We know how to forage to supplement. We know how to fish, trap, hunt, all of that, right? And get those deals, folks. Get those deals. Beans are really easy to store. And if they get too old, grind them up into flour. Just grind them up into flour. I think the substitution is, if you need a cup of flour, you use 3/4 cup of regular flour and 1/4 cup of bean flour. I think that's the ratio, folks. Now, I've bought seeds in the store before, you know, like dry beans for baking, right? You throw a handful of them in some water, let them soak up, and then plant them. If you've got a long enough growing season. Up here in Maine, we don't. For like pinto beans, it's just not a long growing season. So, very well can't plant pinto beans, but Jacob's cattle we can, right? Tongue of Fire, we can. There's a few others. It's important, folks. If things keep going the way they're going, just in high prices, we're going to have to rely on what we've already got stored away, or what we can grow, or what we can get out in the wild, whether it's walking, flying, swimming, or growing, right? It's all going to help, folks. Don't underestimate, I know this is a southern thing, but don't underestimate the value of a turtle, folks. A turtle, especially a snapping turtle, has quite a lot of meat on it. Now, I knew a guy from Louisiana I used to work with years ago. He moved up here to Maine. And he brought me in a container of turtle soup one day. I ate it and it was awfully good. Awfully good, folks. But a snapping turtle has its own dangers, right? You want to know what you're doing, for sure. So, I hate to keep stressing about food, but I think it's important, folks. I think it's important. Now, most of us have never had the pain of being hungry. I got a glimpse of that when I was sick, right? I had the food, I just couldn't keep it down, and I was slowly starving. I had lost 80 pounds. And granted, I'm a big girl, but back then I wasn't as big as I am now, so 80 pounds was a lot for me. And again, I'll say, I know what it's like to be hungry, even though I had food. I was hungry, folks. When that belly button touches your backbone, it's not a good feeling, folks. It's not a good feeling. So maybe that's why I'm so big on storing food, because I know what it's like to be hungry. I know what it's like to be hungry, and I swore, once I got my stomach issues and found out how I needed to eat for the rest of my life, and that's one meal a day, right? And it can't be late at night either. I can't eat for several hours before I go to bed. I just can't do that. I don't even know where I was going with that. But it's important, folks. It's just important. You don't want to get to that point where you're hungry. You just don't. So stock up when you can, where you can, how you can. Learn foraging skills for your area. And I do a lot of foraging here. Okay? So I'll bring you along. I'm going to have you do your own research, though. I'm going to steer you in the right direction. Then you're going to be responsible after that, right? So for years, I've supplemented my feed, my grocery bill, even when times are good and food was relatively inexpensive. I did that because it's important to know those skills and learn those skills and have the resources on hand so you can just grab it off the shelf and say, okay, what's available in my area this time of year. And you should be walking through the woods. You should be scouting out all this food ahead of time, though, so you know exactly where it is and where to find it, how to find it, when to find it, right? How to prepare it. I don't know, folks. I don't know. Got a ticket, though. That's one of last year's. So anyway, I guess that's what I've got to say today. You know, we're not at that point yet where we still can't help those who can't help themselves. So we should be doing that, all right? We should be encouraging folks to do what they can when they can, right? So, anyway, I'm going to collect my eggs and probably do a few things inside the house today. There's some things I want to dig out from upstairs and stuff I want to store upstairs, and maybe I can find my cucumber seeds, right? We'll see. So hope y'all have a good day. I hope you're warmer and drier than what we are here today. And maybe we'll see you tonight. Thank you so much.